Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second half of the season in the Radical Esports Cup for Season 2 of 2026. You join us from the Hungaroring tonight for round number 7, which, as I say, takes us to the second half of our season. It comes in the middle of quite a campaign of twisty racetracks at this stage. A couple of weeks ago, we were in VIR. Last week was Brands Hatch. Next week's Laguna Seca. All of them falling into the same difficult category, I would say. Myself, Ian O'Leary, and Jake Sperry taking you through the action tonight, with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. Here is our schedule. It, as I say, comes in the middle of a real run of races with a certain character, that's for sure. Bookended either side of this by big Grand Prix circuits. We were at Spa on the 10th of April. We'll be at Silverstone on the 15th of May, followed by another one of those Grand Prix circuits, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for round 10. The Nordschleife is back on the calendar this season as well before Adelaide rounds out our season on the 5th of June. That will come round very, very quickly indeed. The championship standings for the iRacing standings are pretty close at this midway stage. James Barry only 8 points in front of Havard Gullikson. In a real run, actually, these seasons of having close championships. It is, again, it looks like. Heinz Braun and Andre Castro are within 150 points as well. George Gonzaga is the first driver to not have 1,000 points yet. Sebastian Lipp is sixth ahead of Ketil Larsen, Peter Ivini, Enrico Trenti and Andrew Mitchell, who round out the top 10. In our RaceSpotTV standings, made up of the 6 races we've broadcasted so far and 2100 GMT broadcasted split, it's Andre Castro who leads his 4 race victories, getting him to 100 points ahead of Havard Gullikson, who's got, meanwhile, 4 podiums to his name. Sebastian Lipp is in third place ahead of James Barry, Peter Ivany, who is in 5th place. Then Heinz Braun, George Gonzaga, Ketil Larsen, Gal Valero, who's still on the board because of just 1 race win, and Dennis Kyriakopoulos, who rounds off the top 10 in the RaceSpotTV standings. As I say, we're at the halfway stage of the season, and it is just coming up to 8 o'clock in the morning here at a rather overcast, a little bit foggy, certainly pretty cold Hungaroring racetrack. Jake, we did the Radical Sim Racing European Championship together last Sunday at Brands Hatch, at a circuit, actually, despite being on Friday, quite an open racetrack, quite a not an easy one to overtake on. It never is there, but it wasn't quite as difficult as it was on Sunday night. And we come to a circuit, I would say, of a similar category, although maybe it would be a little bit easier here. A slightly bigger Grand Prix circuit to race on here for these slightly small Radicals here for round 7 tonight.
Well, this is a car that makes the very large circuits and big normal overtaking tracks look like you can overtake 2 or 3 times on the straights, and it makes these tighter and twistier circuits look like they're great cauldrons of racing to go out there. I think it's been magical what we've seen over the course of this season of the Radical E-Cup, and as well regarding the likes of the European and American Championships that have been going through. First times currently coming through on the board. James Barry currently the quickest at the moment, but this is going to be a track where you'd still want track position, because it's not as simple as I press the overtake button when I stamp my right foot to the floor. This is going to be a very hard-fought race still, as it will be over 14 laps.
It will be a very hard-fought race. There'll be 17 of them on the grid as well, with some new names, or at least some names that we don't see so often down the back end of the field. Rafa Blanco, one of those drivers who hasn't got a time on the board yet, with only 2.5 minutes left. And he gets a slide there over the top of the hill of turn 4. That's a difficult corner for this racetrack, if ever there was one. Aidan Kell moving up to 2nd place is one of those names we don't see too much of, but the regular names are making up, I would say, the rest of the top 7. Now top 8. Andre Castro just moves up to 2nd. He's just changing around the positions of the top 7 there. He has won 4 races so far this season. That's how he's, or at least of our broadcasted races, but that isn't always here. Be good to see him go head-to-head with James Barry, because in amongst those new names, those 2 names are ones we're very familiar with, Barry and Castro, and it'd be great to see them head-to-head tonight.
It very much will do. I also look at Havard Gullikson there as a driver who can definitely mix it up with those as well. This is George Gonzaga currently working around the circuit. He's used all his laps up. They only get 2 over the course of the 8 minutes, so Gonzaga is looking to just get a little bit more practice in to be ready out there for the run. Last driver who can set a time is Erling Gullikson, who is just crossing the line now, does a 1:40.2, which is good enough for 7th place on the board. But this is a perfect time, actually, and we don't see too many sim racers do it, Ewan, but I'd do it if I was a sim racer. You've got time left, effectively, an extra 2 minutes or so at the end. Enrique Vela, another driver who's in the same boat. Why don't you use it as practice time? Why don't you try and understand the circuit a bit more and adapt to the conditions a little bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I don't know why people don't do more, actually. As I said, it's a good opportunity. Here comes Castro again towards the end of another lap. But this is hardly going to change much now. Him and Barry look like they're going to be the front row for this race. There he goes, can't quite go as quick this time round, even than his own previous lap time. But as I say, it would have only reversed the side of the grid they'd be on, I suppose, for that run down towards turn 1. And it is one of the longer ones coming down towards turn 1 at the Hungaroring. Very long run down towards turn 1 there, because of where the start line is. Will really require a good start in a couple of moments' time as the final seconds of this qualifying session tick away, and we'll very shortly show you our grid ready for 14 laps of racing here from the Hungaroring. It's a pretty early morning start, so cold temperatures, but it's James Barry who takes the pole in front of Andre Castro. Aidan Kell with a great performance to get up to third, a name we don't normally see much of. We'll be starting alongside Havik Gullikson. Then it's George Gonzaga and Heinz Braun who are on row 3. Already over a second back to 7th. Henrik Gullikson is in that position ahead of Dennis Kirakopoulos. Then Enrico Vela and Chris Retz rounding out the top 10. Rafa Blanco and Ryan Stringer on row 6. And then 3 names we don't see so often. Brian Nicola, Cesar Pereira Martinez and Benjamin Chazlet, who will round out the field. There they are getting onto the grid, ready for that run down towards turn 1. Barry on the clean side of the road, but Castro on the inside if he can get a good enough launch off the line.
Yeah, and he'll look around at it and say, look, I can get a good run. I can maybe command that early running. But the issue you've got isn't turn 1. You can dive down the inside of turn 1. You can try and square it off. But as we all know from watching the Hungaroring for, what is now going to be 40 years next year, I think, at this point of how long this circuit has been about, if you can get it done at turn 1, you can also get it done at the off-camber turn 2. So don't count your chickens before they've hatched just because you get a good launch off the line here, Ewan.
Yeah, indeed. You've got to be alert on this start. The run down towards turn 1 is one thing. The corner itself is another. The hairpin at turn 1. So switches back for turn 2, which is also a hairpin, left-handed though. So you can see that'll go one way then the other here very quickly, as we're still waiting for somebody down the back end of the field to get onto the grid here. Unusually long hold for one of these races, must be said. Taking their time.
Yeah, so Cesar Pereira has dropped from the server, so he's going to need to get back in, and it's only just got back in now, so that's critical. So we'll be able to get back in. We're also waiting on Reiner Stassels then and Benjamin Chalet before we can get going, but here we go.
Finally, we are ready to go. So, 14 laps from the Hungaroring in the Radical Esports Cup. And we are underway. It's a decent start from Barry. Oh, not a good start at all there in the midfield. Looked like Ole Henrik Gullikson going backwards, but Barry on one side of the grid, Castro on another, looking like Barry has done enough here. Castro defends his second place with Gullikson alongside. It's a big 3-wide moment for 4th place as well, as Aidan Kell shuffled back on the outside line there through turn number 1. Gonzaga and Braun both getting through, with Kirakopoulos not too far away either. Coming down towards turn 2, Gonzaga going to be beaten out by Aidan Kell by the looks of things as he returns to the top 5 again. They'll get single file coming through turn 3 and out of the first sector on this opening lap.
Well, they'll be happy that it's been a clean start that they've worked through. James Barry from the front will be very happy about the fact that he's managed to command this early in what are very cold conditions, very easy for rear tyres to spin up, for example, if you're not paying too much attention to it. But everyone's hit their marks. A little bit of top brake dust then in the back for the likes then of Brian Nicola. There, the American trying to work through, but now through this basically growing second half of the lap as we go through to 9 into turn 10. turn 11 then soon follows, up over the top of the crest, back down it again. This is an underrated place to get a move done here, heading through 11 to 12, 13 and 14 to finish the lap.
Yeah, it's a nice final sector. If we can get some side-by-side through here, it's entertaining to watch as well. And James Barry's got wide there. An uncharacteristic, pretty unforced error, really, through turn 13. And Andre Castro gets to the outside in time for the final turn. He'll take a late apex here. He'll get a good run onto the front straight. And Barry needs to defend the inside line already, but Castro goes even further to the right-hand side. There's not much point of moving it over a little bit. You've got to defend it all the way. And James Barry doesn't do that. Andre Castro gets to his inside. He's going to go deep though, and Gullikson could take them both here. Barry's gone out wide. Here comes Gullikson. Castro does a good job of getting that slowed down in the second part of the braking zone there. He looked like he was sailing wide there for a moment, but he's got the lead now in front of the pole sitter James Barry. Gullikson not able to take advantage quite from third.
Well, James Barry will have to look at himself there and go, how often am I going to gift Andre Castro the race lead? He's the last driver that you want to be out in front. He's won every race he started this season, and so I look around at James Barry and I go, well, now you're going to have to wrestle it off of him, and Andre Castro doesn't let it go. Horvath Gullikson there in third was trying to be opportunistic and give himself a nibble, give himself something to go and work with out there, but now he realises this is going to be a tough day at the office and you're really going to have to fight hard for it. So really difficult there for James Barry. He's just got to reset himself. Knows the 14 laps will go very, very quickly around here, and noting behind as well, Heinz Braun and Aidan Kale. It's 5 clear. George Gonzaga just struggling to keep the same pace.
Unfortunately, Matthew Garry's had to come down pit lane from 16th position, by the way. Our only so far stop in this race. Benjamin Chalet going for a little bit of a slide, and that's even more of an error than James Barry made through turn 13 on the opening lap where he went wide. But oh, there's Matthew Garry. Oh dear, didn't get that turned in at all for turn 8 there, the left-hander, getting into the middle sector, so that's why he is down on pit lane. Castro leads, and he's clear now into turn 1. He's not going to be challenged by James Barry on this occasion. Then it's Horvath Gullikson who is in that third position in behind, and that could be such a costly error from Barry, to be honest, because as we mentioned, it's not one of those easy circuits to overtake on for sure, as Braun and Kale go side by side. Aidan Kale having a look, and it's allowing the front three to get away a little bit.
They are, and this is where Aidan Kale realises it's a case of diminishing returns. He's got to dive through and get the pass cleanly, wide and extending there at turn 4 for Heinz Braun. He runs wide through 5, catches a slide through the middle of the corner, and that is as big of a thank you very much as you can have there. And then also jumping through is George Gonzaga, so that puts the inner E-Racing team car up into 5th place. Be happy with it. But just a note on Matthew Garry's incident there for what happened, Ewan. It was a case of had grass on the outside, couldn't turn the car because he couldn't actually slow it down on the brakes for 2 tyres being in the grass. It's single split here tonight, so we're getting a field of all characters, the 8Ks down to the 1Ks.
Yeah, and it's good to get some of these other names onto the broadcasted split, 2100 GMT. A shame that Matthew Garry, unfortunately, is already out of the race, though, and gone. But yeah, good to see some other names. Here comes Heinz Braun on Gonzaga. It's not so long ago that Heinz Braun was looking good for at least challenging for it. Now he's down in 6th position behind Gonzaga. If he was to be able to get in front, all of the top 6 would be in number order, which you really don't see very often in this series. Still looking down the inside there, Braun. Can't get it done. Next in line, Kyriakopoulos, then Chris Wetz and Rafa Blanco. Ole Henrik Gullikson rounding out the top 10 at the moment. There they are in their group, just settling down a little bit in the midfield now. There are guys further back here who can't quite keep with the pace of the leaders that Andre Castro is setting at the front. In fact, only 2 have gone with him now. The front 3 definitely away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, they're clear. I'd normally use 1 second as my margin buffer for it, and I'd go back to Kyriakopoulos and say they're still just about there, with George Gonzaga fighting hard to stay. Oh, and on speaking cue, that is Dennis Kyriakopoulos. Then having a spin on the outside of 4. The curbs, they rut on that outside, and if you're trying to catch a slide, you just can't. He's fortunate he's not taken Rafa Blanco with him there, who had to take big evasive action, did the Uruguayan. But Kyriakopoulos, this is a mistake anybody can do over the top of their crest.
Absolutely. Just too wide out of turn 4 and bang. It's, good job of everybody else to avoid there. Very nice job, especially from those immediately on the scene there. But, you know, a couple of inches to the left there and he would have been fine. That's how fine the margins are at turn 4. Very, very fine margins indeed. And unfortunately, that is the end for Kyriakopoulos, and that is the second driver to have big contact with a tyre wall in the early stages of this race. Only 4 laps gone of the 14, and we're on board with Heinz Brunn, who's still in 6th place, and he's further away from George Gonzaga than he was last lap here. So maybe this race just going away from him, and the car getting away from him through turn 1 there.
Massive snap of oversteer again as he has tried to tip it in, so he's fighting against a car right now which is akin to wrestling an octopus in a washing machine at this moment. There's no room and it's all limbs, it's just moving about everywhere that you go, so very tough to hold together. He's doing a good job, but behind they're not really doing much damage for it. So the likes then of early Henrik Gulliksen here trying to get by Chris Wett for place. This is 7th and 8th, and the way that this has sort of panned itself out, I think this is the battle that they're looking at all race long. 9 laps, 1v1, let's take it. It's hand-to-hand combat, it's mano a mano.
It is. It's very much in that gap left by the crash we saw a couple of moments ago. As we ride on board with a couple of moments ago, Enrico Vella as well, because he's trying to hold on from Rafa Blanco and Ryan Stringer. Last drivers inside the top 10 there as well, but the top Chris Wetz and Ole Henrik Gulliksen are fighting it out for 7th position as well. And yeah, it is so far, as you were, Chris Wetz able to hold on to this position fine, really as it stands. And these guys are much closer than those at the front now. You can see the intervals now as we look at them. Castro is pinning it to get away from the others, but these guys remaining still close.
They are, and so this is what you get. You get various drivers of various levels who look to push it, and Andre Castro is just turning the screw, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and James Barry turning the screw on Horvath Gulliksen, and Aidan Cale just can't quite stay with the range, and it's not as much of a drafting circuit, this one at the Hungaroring. All of these corners make a huge difference to whether you can jump clear or not, so this is just about keeping the pressure on with what they've got. Kyriakopoulos, 2-minute 41 pit stop, is going to be able to leave pit lane. Critical to save the safety rating out there, and if there is any more retirements from the race, safety I rating, but it looks like he's had to get another jump back into his marks, because clearly not enough damage then has been repaired to allow him to clear, and so he retires the car and says, look, I'm out. So a lot to deal with, but Andre Castro, he's just keeping James Barry at an arm's length. It's like watching a rugby player just put an arm out, really, Ewan, and say, look, you may not touch the ball while I run down the wing.
And I mean, look back to that mistake at the end of lap number 1 there, where first of all Barry went a bit wide through 13, and then as we both commented, he didn't do quite enough to defend, or at least in my view, didn't do enough to defend compared to what he could have done on the front straight. Castro got through, and that was really it. I mean, if Barry is at the front here, holding the track position, making Castro overtake him, this race has a completely different feel. But at the moment, you're just constantly looking back to that mistake there that Barry made towards the end of lap 1, then in not defending and thinking, well, is that the race here? Because, as you say, Castro is keeping him at arm's length, and it's a lot easier for him to do that when he's leading.
Yeah, and while that's happening, Rafa Blanco gets a run on the Puerto Rican Enrique Vella, who is there on the outside. Now, it's a very tight exit to this corner, so you're working through turn 1. It was extended in 2003. It used to be a quick run down the hill and a lot shorter of the main straight, but here into turn 2, Rafa Blanco's got it more than covered up, and Ryan Stringer, who we see quite a bit out there running for Quad Dash Racing, is going to be out there and giving it a good go, but he's actually right now in the Scorpio Esports colours.
Yeah, good to see these battles further down the field. Not all of them names we don't see too often. We do get Rafa Blanco from time to time. 9th place for him so far in this one. And as I mentioned earlier on, some new names. Blanco, though, has had 2 top 10s with us already this season. Enrico Vella and Ryan Stringer 0 as we have a look at this shot through the chicane. These cars not quite taking those curves quite so viciously, and you can understand why, really, as Blanco now pulls out the way and he lets Enrico Vella through, so drops back to 10th again.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a slowdown penalty there for Rafa Blanco, who had pushed a little bit wide through a couple of corners out there. You get 40 seconds if you overcommit through a corner to see that time go back, and ultimately he realises, look, long race, still time to go. We are over halfway, and and actually that's why, because Enrico Vella doing his best impression of, well, you name the driver, Pierre Gasly, Timo Glock, they've all done it there.
It's a famous place to spin, coming on the power there, and Vella gets back going again, but he's 11th place now. Have another look at it from here. How much of that AstroTurf on the... Oh, no, he's already going. It's not exactly on the AstroTurf. He's already going, and, yeah, right the way round. So Blanco up to 8th, Stringer up to 9th, and Ole Henrik Gulliksen has caught them both... is now behind them both, rather, in 10th position. So Blanco and Stringer are feeling, I'd imagine, a bit lucky at the moment. And now Blanco goes wide. Well, it's all happening back here now. They're all having off-track moments, having spins, having all sorts happen here. Blanco in 8th, Stringer now 9th, and Gulliksen back behind them in 10th place again.
Well, Erle had the spin at turn 1. It was a half spin, and it really just damaged any momentum off the exit of the corner, and that's why those 2 places went away. So Stringer and Blanco are now given license to go out there and push a little bit further forward. Chris Wetz is now free to just run hot lap over to the end of this race. And I note that James Barry's not relinquished here to Andre Castro, as again Rafa Blanco gets a penalty to serve down and again has to let a car through on the run down in towards turn number 11.
He's got to clean that up because it's costing him at the moment. So he got that one position back straight away from Vella, but you can't keep relying on other people's mistakes to gain places. That eventually is going to run out, so he's got to clean this up. But it's one of those places where it is possible. You know, you mentioned the changes to this racetrack made in terms of layout, of which there have been a few down the years. Oh, as he gets a little bit of a slide towards turn 1 again there. But also in terms of the runoff around here, it's changed down the years, and it is, or was not, if iRacing were around in the 90s, would not be a circuit of the of off tracks, of slowdowns and stuff. But it certainly is in its current form.
It is, and so it makes life very tough if you step even 4 wheels outside of the boundary and you're just trying to push the mark a little more. It's so tough to go out there and go through. The most dedicated team in an e-racing team to these radicals out there up against Brussel plus Hybrid, then with Andre Castro, one of the great sim racing teams in the world that does one of the most amazing jobs, and I know you've commentated on many of them, you and I've done so as well. The amount of sim to reality that is put in, and the vision of Florian Hasper and the team over there, it is simply incredible to see.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It does mean that in Andre Castro's case, he's stolen away from it occasionally on Friday nights, but that's all for the greater good, as they say. And so, yeah, it's good to see him here tonight anyway. See him doing so well, both here and in the real world as well. As we split screen these 2 battles, Barry getting a little bit closer to the race lead. That battle for 8th remaining as close as ever. And now look at the aggressive weaving as well from Stringer as he tries to break the slipstream a little bit here. Gulliksen kind of close to Blanco, but Blanco the same to Stringer, but none of them anywhere near close enough for a move down at turn number 1. You've got to break these stalemates somehow. Even though these cars are more conducive to overtaking around this circuit, it is still hard round here.
Well, I just looked at Rafa Blanco's turn 1. He turned in, got understeer, tried to give it a bit of throttle, got oversteer, and then had that a second time as he went through. So you talk about a car, this weighs under a ton out there. It's about 700 kilograms, this. It's a track day car, this Radical, and it produces about, per ton, 525 brake horsepower. So think what you've got to deal with in a car like this. It's a scary piece of machinery. If you just give it the giddy up, it will go and run. And you look at Rafa Blanco as he's working around. I think he's really struggling to know whether he should be lifting or putting the foot down here in these conditions. It's very tough. Again, pushing wide out of turn number 8, and it is keeping him pretty much on his toes. This is not the easiest circuit to drive these radicals at.
No, indeed. Does feel like that it's just a little, it's a little bit unbalanced in places. Oh, and Blanco goes wide now through the final sector, which is proving to be pretty tricky as well. That's going to allow Stringer off the hook a little bit. Ole-Henrik Gullikson's not really close enough to do anything from there. So they'll stay as they are. They'll just separate even further as they are, really, with 4 laps to go. You can tell that Stringer still feels that those two are close enough in behind him, though, because he just weaved to the right-hand side there, coming out of the final turn, just a little bit, just to acknowledge that those guys were behind, try and break the slipstream a little bit, even though, to be honest, I'm not sure he is under much pressure for those positions really at all.
In the sense that he's close with the driver behind, yeah, he's under pressure here, Ewan. In the sense of a driver's going to go lunging down the inside and make a move like Rafa Blanco, no, he's under no pressure at all, and I think he understands. He's under no illusion that he has to defend that position. He's under no illusion that, you know, he can just run the racing line as he wants. He will see on the black box relative that gap, if it comes down, if it's 3 tenths, 2 tenths, a tenth and a half, okay, yes, maybe I do need to do something, but right now, in terms of this group of 3, I think he's quite content. Maybe he's letting in a little close Rafa Blanco, who's really set up, but this is where you struggle to hold with any car in any car out there. You get this SS section that works through, sweeping through at turn 10. Rafa Blanco's close, but by no means here. 2 car lengths here heading to the braking zone. It's not going to be enough to lunge one down the inside. He gets close, but close ain't good enough.
No, you're right, it isn't close enough, even though he was only a few tenths behind there towards turn 12, and he did close in under the brakes. Now, that's a little bit wide from Stringer, but Blanco clips the inside curve, and that's not great for your run towards the final turn. Here's the big corner, the final one. Oh, that's a nice line from Stringer. He gets on the power nicely, and that should be enough to hold in the position. He's only a third of a second in front, though, so Blanco will be getting a decent tow down here. It's going to have to be quite a lunge if he wants it. In towards turn 1, he gets in the mirrors a little bit, he moves around, but still not close enough. Even a third of a second behind and closer is not close enough into the first turn. Now he's less than 2 tenths behind. Here comes Rafa Blanco in the mirrors again. He's showing himself in those mirrors. Stringer will have recognised him, but still, even at that distance, he wasn't close enough to pass.
No, and so when you get up the hill here, you've got to be alongside if you want to move up into turn 4, and Rafa Blanco just simply isn't, and so that's not going to be enough to go and make that move. But then around turn 5, you've just got to be clever, because you're getting into the final laps now. They've got 2.5 laps of their race to go. James Barry's starting to fall backwards into the clutches of Harvard Gulliksson if he's not careful, but he's got a gap of about 1.5 seconds, so he's happy with it. I would turn and look at this right now from the likes then of Brian Stringer and go, look, if you're going to defend this, you're going to have to make sure that you're getting the drive away. Of course, you've got that rubber band that keeps you back in at the toe, but he's getting 3-4 tenths of a second where he needs to in the middle sector. It's covering everything else off, but he can't rely on that forever. He knows there's an end game, and at some point, you know, Rafa Blanco is going to pull the trigger and say, look, I am diving down that inside whether you like it or not.
Well, if he wants this 8th place, it looks like it's going to have to be that attitude for Rafa Blanco. He's not going to get the obvious overtaking chance anywhere, I don't think. Stringer just clipped the inside curve there through the final turn, and he knows that his run onto the front straight isn't quite as good this time. So he weaves to the inside briefly for a moment. Here comes Blanco now to the inside. Is it going to be? Not quite. And he nearly hits him. Maybe he would have been close enough there if he'd have really committed to that on the inside line. Again, he's got a decent run, but you need to be even closer for turn 2, less of a braking zone. So he's not going to do it from there. If he didn't at turn 1, he won't do it here. But I think that was a chance for Blanco, but he didn't take it.
And one of the reasons why you wouldn't take a chance like that, Ewan, is game theory. If I take this chance, what's the chances of the driver behind me taking that chance straight back again? I think he looks around at Ryan Stringer and goes, well, if I can make that move, he can make that move on the last lap. I stay close for this lap. I go for that move on the final lap. Where's he going to attack me and get it back?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's found it so difficult to, well, that might be what he's thinking, but I'm not sure if it's the right thing to be thinking at the moment, because I see this as being a difficult circuit to overtake on in these cars, to rely on that, or to be thinking that you don't want to leave it up to Stringer on the last lap, because the next time down towards turn 1 will be the last time. Andre Castro is going to take the white flag, and for the 5th time this season, he's going to lead coming on to the final lap of this race. Surely go on to take his 5th race victory of the season as well. It's been a pretty dominant season from him, to be honest, in the broadcasted races anyway. He needs to get up there a little bit more in the iRacing standings, but I'm sure he will throughout the second half of this season. What's the exit like for Blanco? He's really at a similar distance to what he has been before, and Stringer's being more aggressive in his weaving now to try and defend. Blanco's got to go for it now, unless he's going to finish in 9th place or worse. And he does not go for the lunge again in towards turn 1. To be fair, that time Stringer got his braking zone a bit more correct for turn 1, but he goes a little bit wide. Here comes Blanco to the outside now for turn 2. He's going to have to go round here to get the inside at 3, and he brakes late enough. It's a run round the outside from Rafa Blanco. He's been working on this for laps, and he's now there alongside with his nose in front. Still side by side through turn 3, but the run on the outside from Stringer keeps him in 8th position.
Well, he gave it everything. It's a red-hot go for it. Saw half a car off the line there for Ryan Stringer. It was a great attempt. Now he'll have turn 11 as the last great place to get it done. If he's brave, he can lunge here up at turn 6 and 7, the chicane. But critically enough, you turn around, you look at Andre Castro. He's probably had it easier than he wants to, and he's 2 quarters away as that's wide from Stringer.
This is going to be a battle that goes down to the line, even while Andre Castro takes the final corner of this race, and for the 5th time in the broadcasted races this season, wins in the Radical Esports Cup. It's Hungaroring this time round for Castro. He conquers it again. 1.7 seconds is advantage at the line ahead of James Parry, who might look back on this race with a bit of disappointment. And what's going to happen for 8th place here? There's a lap car in front of them now and everything. Blanco forced on the defensive from Gullickson more than anything into the final turn now. He does enough to hold on to 9th at least. He doesn't quite get past Stringer as it finally opened out there on the final lap. Stringer is able to hold on in front of Blanco and Gullickson. A good race between those 3 in the end. They were providing the entertainment for much of that race.
Well, they did a wonderful job showing what it's all about, and it's not just about being a 5K, 6K, 7K driver at the front and running nose to tail and trying to break someone in terms of pace. Sometimes it's about improving that racecraft, and they showed out there today here, Ewan. They had amazing racecraft to go and battle with.
Yeah, indeed. But it's Andre Castro who wins this race in front of James Barry by 1.7 seconds. Howard Gullickson joining them on the podium. Hopefully we'll be able to chat to all of them in a moment. Aidan Cale and George Gonzaga round out the top 5 with Heinz Braun in 6th position. Chris Wett's 7th, rather on his own in that race. And Ryan Stringer holding on from Rafa Blanco and Ola Henrik Gullickson to round out the top 10. Enrique Vela and Brian Nicola were the last drivers on the lead lap. Cesar Pereira Martinez and Benjamin Chazley were able to get to the end of the race at least, albeit 1 lap down. Dennis Kiriakopoulos and Matthew Gary retired early on in the day. Let's work up the podium the wrong way, shall we? Let's talk to Howard Gullickson first of all. Howard, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats on a 3rd place tonight. Looks like a little bit of a lonely run for you in that race. How was it?
Yeah. It was a bit lonely after some laps because Andre and Barry was a bit too quick. And yeah, I just had to focus on my own race, trying not to overheat the rear tires. That is really difficult on this track. But yeah, I missed the quali and I pushed too much in the start. So I think I overheated my tires too early, and yeah, they just was too fast today. So congratulations to Andre and James.
Talk us through a little bit about what qualifying means for these races this week at the Hungaroring for just 14 laps, because it is a traditional circuit where it's kind of difficult to overtake sometimes. Do you think this race would have been any different, do you think, if you'd have absolutely nailed qualifying and got onto the pole, or was this race finish always going to be the place you finish for this circuit because of all the things you mentioned there?
It's hard to say. This week I have been practice more towards the 24 hours of the Nürburgring that starts tomorrow. So yeah, I'll need too little practice maybe, and with more practice I would have maybe gotten better quality and maybe had more race pace. So it's hard to say.
Well, good luck for the 24 tomorrow, starting tomorrow, as you say, and congratulations on third place tonight. Thanks for coming to chat to us at the end, as always, as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. That is Harvey Gullikson, who finished in third place. Hoping to chat to James Barry, but he's not there yet. In the meantime, let's chat to the race winner, Andre Castro, who joins us now. Andre, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Congratulations on a race victory, because that was not a lights to flag victory for you tonight. You had to make a pass on James Barry, albeit it did come very early in the race. Just talk us through what you were thinking as it settled down there. You in second place, Barry at the front there, as you were working out how you were going to pass him. In the end, it didn't take you very long, but what were you thinking about in those moments where you settled in behind James Barry for the first time in this race tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I don't really know. I mean, it was one of the more straightforward races I've had. Just kind of no real, draft strategy or anything like that here. Just kind of going as, trying to be tidy, hit all my apexes. I think that was, something I did well in this race. Just at this track, I think can't really overdrive, so I was trying not to do that, and worked out in the end. But yeah, qualifying, kind of wish it had gone a little better. I kind of didn't race without my. I raced without my relative, like my tab, I guess. So I was just kind of feeling it out. I maybe had like 17, 18 laps of practice, and just still learning the track. It's pretty technical. So I'm just getting more comfortable throughout the race and trying not to overstep my limits, but it worked out.
Well, what we can say is that it's been a wonderful battle out there for you, and maybe you would have sat down there, Andre, and said, look, you probably want a race out there where there was maybe a little bit more of a fight. So in terms of getting that gap and just managing it, what do you prefer out there as a race? Do you prefer it a little bit closer, or do you prefer these races where it's a bit easier, you're just managing a margin?
I think I like a bit of both. Ideally, I think I want a race that goes like that with not many complications, and just trying to get hit the apexes every lap, just making sure I'm consistent. Because James pushed me pretty hard, and I had to really focus and buckle down and make sure I didn't make too many mistakes. So that's always fun. But then always it's fun to have some battles as well. It's nice to have a good mix of them. I think as a race car driver, you want to probably have as least trouble as you can, make it as boring as you can. So that was mission accomplished today. But with these radicals, it rarely is like that. So I'm always ready to kind of fight at the front whenever I show up to race these. And I'm sure we're gonna have some really good finishes coming up the rest of the season. And yeah, it's always the case with these cars.
Well, you're 5 for 5 here. Just very quickly before we let you go, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca next time out. Firstly, 1, are we going to see you? And 2, that screams like your type of track, mate.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, unfortunately not. I mean, I'll be out in Sebring for TC America, so won't be there next week. But I don't know if I've raced this car there, so it would be awesome to get the chance to drive around it. But yeah, whatever the track is in a couple weeks, I'm excited to be back. It's been a really good season, so I love to show up whenever I can and race these guys, because they're really, really good. And hopefully we get a bigger turnout, maybe a split next time I'm around. But I'll probably be tuning in to see the results of Laguna next week as well.
Well, we'll look forward to see you in 2 weeks' time then at Silverstone for your next battleground. Andre Castro there joining us and picking up the dub. The driver in second position is James Barry, who's here with me right now. And James, God, you had the lead, lap 1, and you run a little bit wide, and ultimately he sneaks through and he just knows how to keep a lead.
Well, it was mostly just the pace, really. He didn't really show it in qualifying, but he had just a little extra pace that I couldn't keep up with today. So I did my best to keep him behind, and I thought, I didn't mind too much that he went past, because I thought based on qualifying I'll be able to stay behind him. But I quite quickly realised that I wasn't able to keep up, and that was just how the race went after that.
Well, let's talk iRacing Championship. You walk into today as championship leader there. You're in a really close battle with Horvath Gullikson on that. A second today that just notches you slightly ahead, gives you a couple more points in that regard. Are you looking at this as one where you're thinking about, okay, I'm managing this week to week and I'm looking at the strength of fields out there to try and keep that on keep away?
No, to be honest, I've Horvath, as I think it is, has 1 week less than me. So really, he's got way more points in principle than I have so far. And Andre's got a huge amount of points from his. But before this week, he had 4 weeks and he had more than 250 points each week. So no, I'm not in the fight this season. Andre's been absolutely cooking, as the young people like to say these days. And I can't really do anything about it at the moment. And Havard as well has been beating me most weeks so far. So I'm not really in the fight. Just trying to have some fun, and for the rest of the season, just trying to see if I can improve on my performances so far.
Okay then, so as the young people say, how does one look to get good then as they head over to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in 7 days?
Oh, well, it's complicated. I mean, my dad, who likes to watch these races, he often asks me when this kind of thing happens, he says, so why are those guys faster than you? And I'm just like, well, it's complicated. It's not that easy to go fast. And I actually watched Andre's best lap after the race just here today, and just little things, just taking a bit more speed into certain corners and still managing to make the apex, just a little bit extra car control. So for something like Laguna Seca, it's just about a lot of practicing the limits of the car, and it's really tough. I've been driving this car for 3 years nearly now, and it gets to the point where it becomes difficult to keep improving, but I'll do what I can, and let's just see how it goes.
And we see it quite a lot with you. We'll wish you the best of luck. We know you're not going to fight Andre Castro in 7 days, but a chance for you then to jump on up. James Barry there joining us, and Ewan, I think that puts us to a close on interviews.
Yes, it does. We chat to all three of the guys on the podium this time around, which is very nice to have indeed. In terms of the Radical Esports Cup, we'll be back in 1 week's time from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That will be the next round of the Radical Esports Cup. As I say, hit same time, same place, 2100 GMT. But lots of other things to remind you about here on iRacing, of course, on the iRacing and RaceSpotTV YouTube channels. The Nürburgring 24 hours starting just over 12 hours time now, not too far away at all from the beginning of that race. It will all be live on iRacing and RaceSpotTV, of course. Myself and Jake and a load of other people will be bringing you coverage over the course of the 24 hours. Thoroughly looking forward to another historic year at the Nürburgring. Hope you can join us for that as well tomorrow afternoon as we get that race underway, and join us throughout the night and into the next morning as well. But for now, this has been the Radical Esports Cup from the Hungaroring tonight in week 7 of the second season in iRacing for 2026. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Jake Sparrow with Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this iRacing and RaceSpotTV broadcast. We'll all be back in this series in exactly 7 days' time from Laguna Seca for the next round of this championship. Until then, it's goodbye for now.